Good morning, good evening. Thank you very much for joining the second episode of VisionCast. I'm your host, Hasif, and today we are going to talk so much deeper into the conversation we had last episode about retail. Today we're going to explore the supply chain and the problems that are facing supply chain after pandemic. You guys, listener, you guys been hearing about a lot of things that happening, the technology perspective or the business side of it. There's a lot going on within the supply chain world, but today we have our in-house expert. We call him a supply chain guru, Mr. Rauf Ahmed. He's a senior vice president. Hey, Rauf, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. Good to be here.
Likewise. So let's just get into it. So, Rauf, I just wanted to start, something with a very recent line that I read is about what is the competitive advantage that you actually get, having being into a supply chain world? What do you need to be in competitive way in order to compete with this problem or fiasco of supply chains? And what is going on actually in the supply chain world?
Yeah, so I think there are a number of things which are happening right now. First of all, in terms of consumer demand and the consumer behavior, there's been a lot of changes with the pandemic, and people expect a multi-channel experience in terms of buying, shopping, and quick turnaround in terms of fulfillment. And also, brands and companies had to adopt, typical manufacturers or distributors who did not typically have an online presence. They have an online presence all of a sudden now. And everybody's trying to sell online as well as brick and mortar, as well as through the B2B channels. So that's the first, major change in the consumer behavior. And then of course there have been disruptions on the supply side as well, both in terms of disruptions whether at the factories or vendors or through in the transportation channels, and that there are that's a two double-edged sword, sort of, if you will, which is causing this whole challenge for the organizations.
I see. That's interesting. In last episode, we talked about the customer behavior and how the entire retailers and the business in fact they are just caring the end user, because now the end user is not just an end user buying stuff. They may be selling stuff and they are looking for completely different kind of experience. So can you talk about what is how this connected experience and how this is the solution that we are talking about, this order processing or anything? What is the connected experience within the supply chain, and how the companies are looking into the end user, not as a consumer, but also that they need to know the entire life cycle of those products?
Yeah, so essentially what's since what's at stake is that the consumers or the buyers, since there is a certain level of expectation in terms of fulfillment or delivery of the orders at their desired location at desired time. So with that, really what the companies really need is a good process to be able to take demand from all different channels, and then route the demand to different sourcing or fulfillment channels, right? And typically, a lot of companies have had traditionally a limited number of options to fulfill the demand. Either you are bringing stock in house, fulfilling through your own DCs or through 3PLs, or you're doing direct delivery. And everybody had a typical number of models that they support. So now, with the change in demand and the diversity in the catalogs and the diversity in the type of consumers and channels, that whole process of fulfillment is being disrupted as well. Companies have to be able to adapt to be able to provide new avenues or new options for fulfillment and order routing.
So that's great, but I see there's a lot of consumer having a higher demand. So how you can but optimize this customer journey by maybe making your supply chain resilient or creating a different sort of system in IOM or different system. How we can create that customer journey more resilient?
Right. So what as organizations, what they need to be able to do now is that um, you know whenever you make a promise to the consumer, whenever you take an order, you want to be able to fulfill it, right? And you want to be able to fulfill it through any which channel or any which medium. So you need to be able to first of all, not only be able to ship direct to the customer, but also be able to provide, pickup options, the whole omni-channel experience. But then also, in certain cases, you want to be able to leverage vendors and your factories' capacities and your distributors' capacities as well, and do a lot of drop ships, right? And a lot of retailers are also experiencing or trying to experiment with, endless aisle type of uh, concept, where you want to be able to provide additional catalog of items available for your customers or consumers walking into the store. And that experience is also, it requires a backbone operations system which can allow you to not only take those orders which are beyond your traditional catalog, but also route those orders to the right vendors, to the right factories or distributors, and then fulfill and ship from there directly to the customer, or allow for a pickup from the store, right? So in terms of, so from a connected experience, you want to be able to offer all these options to the customers. But you tie it with a supply chain resilience, because it also, if once you have this process of orchestration and order fulfillment in place, what you can also do is leverage it to quickly reroute, orders, or reroute demand to different fulfillment channels easily and quickly as soon as one channel gets disrupted. So that's a very fundamental portion in this whole process. For instance, if I am typically shipping orders from one DC, and all of a sudden there has been some issue that I'm not able to ship from that DC anymore, I want to be able to quickly, without having to go through a lot of customizations or integrations, quickly be able to route those orders to a vendor or a factory for direct ship, or to a maybe my other fulfillment center, which may not be as which may not be exactly in the case location area, but it could still be able to fulfill my demand.
Yeah, and also like, and I think with you mentioned dropship and the areas that dropship can be done, like with the mom and pop, like just selling from home, and they are sending like Amazon, like this marketplace sellers, or even like from home, like they are doing. But like I just wanted to understand one thing, which I'm sure like our that for a business to be in this entire competitive world, how they can bring that competitive advantage into this business, because all the retailers, and you mentioned endless aisle as well. I heard this terminology back in 2013, when like the Trump digital transformation was like all over the place, and then omni-channel transformation, and like from retail to shared cart and all those things. But it's still like the people, majority of the retailer, they may not figure out what exactly need to do for endless aisle. But my question here is like how you can bring that competitive advantage as a business.
Yeah, so both from a buyer's and a seller's perspective. So if you look at it from a seller's perspective, sellers definitely want to increase their revenue, and and you want to increase the experience of your customer as well. If the customer walks into your store, you want to be able to make sure that they walk out of the store after making the purchase, right? So having the endless aisle just gives you the ability to provide or open additional products in the catalog, which are probably not even present in your store, or you're not even selling those directly through your own channels, right? So you're able to experience and experiment a little bit by onboarding additional vendors and onboarding additional sellers on your platform through that endless aisle mechanism, and then exposing those additional products to your consumers and customers. So in one way, it's helping you secure revenue and making sure that the customer does not go to a competitor. And another way, you're also expanding your relationships with your vendors, additional vendors, additional sellers as well, and that sort of expands and provides you that additional cushion or coverage, right? So that's kind of, I mean, in from a buyer's perspective, as a consumer, I definitely need more options. If I walk into a store, and walking into a store is probably a better option for a lot of the consumer these days, because you want to experience the first-hand experience, the human experience. So
Mhm.
you still want to have that in play, and while offer the flexibility of online commerce or marketplaces within the store as well, so that you can marry the best of the both worlds, in that live environment. So that's kind of, where in both ways, from a seller and buyer's perspective, this is kind of a new experience. And if you're able to provide it to your consumer base, you definitely have an edge over the competitors, because, as a consumer, we prefer to go where we can have more options.
That's interesting. In our last episode, we touched upon one of a very interesting area about the omni channel, and within the omni channel, there's like a notion. There's a lot of retailers like closing down their brick and mortar stores. Toys R Us, like shut down. Sears, like those are big box retailers. They, like gone. Kmart gone, and then on contrary, Amazon is opening up those brick and mortar store. So how you see, like this paradigm change in within someone is closing out, they think like that brick and mortar is dying, but the big e-commerce giant is opening up the retailers. Is it like they figure out the technology or consumer behavior, or the other people are still lagging behind? What's your take in this situation, or what the things that are going on within the supply chain world?
Yeah, so I think it just from Amazon's and from these big players' perspective, you really are what you're leveraging is your backbone, which is your supply chain, which is your ability to ship anywhere, within day or 2 days. So that's a huge backbone that you can rely on, right? Now, the bringing on top of that, bringing the in person or live experience to the consumers, or it creates more loyalty, I think, from that context. And also it allows Amazons of the world to go into consumer base, which, or the types of categories of products which are typically not sold through online, like grocery items. I mean, it's still heavily in person experience.
Yeah.
So in order to tap that market, they definitely had to go in person. So from their perspective, that's the concept. Amazon is not opening toy stores, right? Amazon. So if you look at it that context, the key here is, what is it that people need personal experience, and what is it that is really what we buy in person, right? So you got to pay attention to that. I mean, and even in terms of toys or other home goods, or regular retail, the key trick that I think that is missing from these retailers is they're probably not looking at the demographic as well as they should, and trying to figure out what is it that they should be selling at which locations. They're not leveraging data as much as they should, and they have huge inventories stuck in different silos in different stores. So if they were to, I mean, if I'm Toys R Us, if I'm able to ship from my Toys R Us store, right, and take an online order, e-com order, and fulfill it from my Toys R Us
Yeah.
store, or have a same day, next day delivery, in each zip code, of course, I would, my store would still be functioning. It would still be acting as a warehouse as well as a retail store. So I mean, there are a number of things which I think the stores ought to be doing if they do not want to be falling into that same sort of conundrum.
Yeah, that's interesting. Last week I ordered something. Like I was trying to find the one like toy for my son. Just like I have his birthday is coming up, and so I looked at Amazon, and Amazon was saying that they're gonna ship me like after 7 or 10 days. It may be like that it's a very famous item. So I looked at in Walmart, and one of the store has that thing, and this was the first time I experienced. They say, okay, we can deliver it your home the same day. And I was wondering, like, that UPS, USPS, FedEx, they cannot deliver on the same day, like, in within hours. Then there's like, a regular person, like, in a regular car that came in and then drop at my place. And so I just got curious, like, what's going on? Like, is this Amazon just build their own Uber world, or what they are doing? Then it's interesting, like they actually creating this uberizing model of delivery, which Amazon, like doing their own deliveries, like with their own trucks, but Walmart actually figure out, like how to uberize that model. And now they actually, all those private folks, like who are actually maybe using DoorDash or like Uber Eats and stuff, they're also part of that network to use that delivery.
Yeah.
So that's like very interesting model. But like one thing that's which is also very interesting, that all those things to happen in the technology world, the, I'm sure like that people looking at the end of the customer, because you mentioned that customer need the stuff like at the door, like right now, like yesterday kind of stuff. Is there any technology out there like who looked at the customer first than like the other areas, and have you encountered those technology, and what is that technology who can help this order fulfillment?
Yeah. So Tasif, I mean, we're working with typically, I mean, this is a role of distributed order management solutions, and we're working with Microsoft solution, which is intelligent order management. It's a new sort of new application, new solution Microsoft introduced last year. It's very powerful, configurable, and you can easily adopt onboard new all of your any of your order channels or fulfillment channels onto the platform, and then create or configure order fulfillment routes, or order fulfillment or orchestration logic within intelligent order management. And you can enable any of these, order online, pick up from store, pick the best or nearest store for pickup automatically, or pick the cheapest option to ship to a consumer, or pick the nearest DC or 3PL to ship to a customer, in shortest amount of time. All of those things, you can easily configure these routes. And you can even go as far as maybe trying to figure out whether it's in your best interest to fulfill from your own stores or your own DCs, or to do a direct ship, even though you may have inventory, right? So you can use AI to create those to generate those decisions within the orchestration logic for you, and leverage that in there. And if you are somebody who's actually willing or to experiment or trying to implement endless aisles type of model, you can actually leverage intelligent order management to route the orders to respective vendors or distributors to fulfill customer demand.
So, Roof, this is sort of like, this is our second episode, and I have one question, like, someone on the audience, like, they ask live question, and I want to give this question. It's asking, like, direct fulfillment is introduced as opportunity in the supply chain, or it was identified as an issue. How direct fulfillment got in supply chain? That's a very good question.
Yeah, I think it, I mean, I don't know, there would be multiple opinions. From my perspective, direct fulfillment is actually an opportunity. You are actually leveraging your vendors to, you could think of it as a just-in-time type of manufacturing as well, but you're outsourcing your actual manufacturing to your vendors, and you don't have to keep the safety stocks or quantity minimums, and all of that burden is on the vendors and suppliers based on the SLA that you negotiate. And you're basically acting as seller in that situation only. You're acting as a seller. Maybe you are designing or conceptualizing the product as well, but you're not responsible for any of the other logistical headaches in this scenario. So I see it as an opportunity for businesses, as long as you are able to negotiate terms with your vendors, and you're able to partner with right vendors who are able to commit to the promises that you're making to your consumers, and they can actually follow up on that, right? That's the key.
Yeah. And then he's asking how direct fulfillment got into supply chain. That's the second part of the question.
I think from my experience perspective, it's probably a mix of few things. It's the first of all, the intention to reduce your cost of goods sold, your bottom line inventory costs, and your that's the burden that you're trying to reduce, right? And then you're trying to reduce the inventory that you're keeping in stock, and that's the fundamental element, that you're trying to gain speed in some instances. So either you're trying to reduce your inventory costs, have less of your cash caught up into that, or you're trying to achieve speed. Instead of bringing inventory or products from vendors to your DCs and then sending it to the customers, There are situations where you can do, things like cross docking, or maybe shipping direct to the customer, or customer does a pickup from a cross dock locations. All of those, those are, more of the ways that supply chain logistics teams have come up with over the time, trying to maximize, consumer, or maybe in some cases B2B experience with your brand or your company.
Okay, that question was from Sulek, and thank you, Sulek, for the question. I hope, that answer your question. But on a side, if you still want to have a conversation, please leave your email, and Rove can definitely connect with you and have a detailed conversation. But on that note, Rove, I just want to get to a little bit on deeper on the supply chain side, which is all those different technology and different. Things you have the solution for fulfillment, you have the connected experience e-commerce solutions. So making the supply chain resilient, it requires a connected experience, the end-to-end visibility, how you can be transparent. What is that you as in you working with the small medium large enterprise companies, how you are working to make that connected experience, make it more unified, supply chain connected experience, end-to-end visibility, which can give better control, what you guys are doing and how you're solving this for the companies that you're working with.
Yeah, so I mean, platforms for distributed order management, there are many out there. Intelligent Order Management by Microsoft is one more platform. It's new and it's advanced, but the key thing that any of these platforms needs is connectivity. So what we bring in is the ability to quickly, or rather rapidly, onboard any of your existing commerce platforms, whether it's B2B, B2C, direct to consumer, whatever channel you're selling your products on. We are able to bring orders from that channel directly to this distributed order management system through our solution, our connectivity solution, Partner Link. And then we also at the same time are able to, once the orchestration logic runs, and once we know where this order needs to go to a 3PL or a DC, or through our ERP or directly to a fulfillment channel, we're able to leverage this connectivity platform,
Mhm.
connectivity solution, then to route the order to the right destination as well, so that it can be fulfilled. And then all the way back from fulfillment, getting the status updates back from your DCs, back from your vendors, 3PLs and stores, through our connectivity platform down to your channels and markets, and
Okay.
marketplaces and so on. So we bring in that connectivity element. We bring in that pre-built, pre-configured, ability for us to connect with all these systems and solutions and third-party providers.
Okay, I'm gonna throw a curveball, Rauf. This is all theory, and this is very good. Tell us, our audience, a real life example of how you solve this thing. Any industry or anything which you think that other folks couldn't be able to resolve this thing, and then you work really into the weeds of that problem and resolve it for the company. Real life example. That's what our audience wants to hear.
All right. So yeah, I think we're working with a number of companies right now. We're working with a food distributor, trying to expedite their order delivery process. They're using another distributed order management solution right now, which we're trying to replace. So the new process would be, to leverage this intelligent order management with our partner link solution, bringing in orders from B2B, or from ERP into the order management, and then routing it to the right distribution center.
Dhruv, I'm going to stop you. Sorry, but what was the problem that you started the conversation with?
Yeah, the problem really, what we started was the first of all, the complexity of the routing process and the rules that we needed to deal with.
Hmm.
So we needed to provide a solution which was flexible enough to incorporate all those orchestration rules and layers and priorities and so on. And then also the second part of the problem was to be able to connect with multiple systems at the same time, and then be able to route the orders to a number of different destinations.
I see. And then what was that was the problem, and how you worked out the solution, and are like the solution help optimize their productivity or their bottom line, or how this solution after implementing, what happened with the organization? They are they are doing great, or they have doing this competitive edge now?
Yeah, I think the key thing that they gain out of this particular solution that we're providing is that they are able to find or route the order to the right DC at a much accurate with much more accuracy, and that's basically helping them reducing the manual overhead, or in turn it's helping reduce increase productivity.
Mhm.
So that's the key outcome, helping, and that outcome could be different for different customers or different organizations depending on the situation or use case, right? So
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room, Chat GPT. Okay, how this Chat GPT and the AIs of the world, that is just buzzing all over the universe. And I heard the Mars is also talking about this AI now. So what's going on? That, and how this entire technology platform that was built, and they need to have this AI element to it. Do you see that things are going to change with the Chat GPTs of the world, how that's going to be impacting this entire supply chain, order fulfillment, connected commerce, connected experience, and in fact the entire omni-channel world?
yeah, I mean, Chat GPT, a lot of the public got introduced to Chat GPT recently, but AI solution, natural language processing has been around for a while now, especially in the enterprise world. So I think there is a lot of room or a lot of opportunity to leverage AI for decision making. The key thing is to find the right use case.
Hmm.
Find the right use case where you can get the right ROI. Using AI for trivial decision making, it doesn't make much sense. It doesn't generate any ROI. So, for instance, if I was to use AI, in this particular situation for the routing or fulfillment, I'll try to see, like I was mentioning earlier, whether I ship an order from my own stock or should I use vendor
Right.
direct ship. I don't know. I mean, things like that where you want to see what is the best way forward for you. What can you predict? Can you predict that I would need this inventory tomorrow or tonight, so that I should not use it? And maybe how do I know which customer to prioritize, and which customer's order should I fulfill myself, and which customer's order should I fulfill from a third party?
Right,
I
yeah.
mean, so straightforward decisions, distance and cost, you can take easily without AI. But predicting what would happen tomorrow and using that and making a decision of today, that's where AI is most useful in these type of situations as well.
So now, if you notice, the consumer actually got a hands-on AI experience. Previously, the technology say, okay, this is built on AI, or it can do that AI based decision making or all those things. But now consumer end user, they can see how the AI works. Do you see that this is just a hype, or it's just gonna continue to grow?
Um, there's been a lot of debate. I mean, a lot of people think it's going to continue to grow. I feel the same way. There are certain areas and certain scenarios where AI would take longer to penetrate, and but certain areas it would be much faster. Especially, like I said, predicting and then decision making based on that prediction. That's probably where we're seeing a lot of adoption even now. And that's where it would be much faster.
Good. My last question to you. Tell us in a very short way, where this retail organizations are heading in future with all those technology and AI, with your perspective.
Yeah, I think my perspective is more biased towards supply chain for retail. So I would say you would see a lot more connected supply chains for retail. You would see a lot more usage of AI infused applications for decision making, for scenarios, for what ifs. You're going to see a lot more of that, and especially in supply chain as well, trying to figure out how best to tackle or predict a coming anomaly, and then be able to ready to react accordingly. Yeah, so that's kind of what I think is going to happen.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Rov. That was a loaded session and very informative. I'm sure, like, our audience enjoyed it. We, like, love to have you back, like, here, like, and then if there's any question, I'm sure, like, that you'll be able to answer, like, for the audience. Again, thank you. It was great conversation and you having us here. And thank you for the audience, like, and then next episode, we're gonna just take you a different journey. Just look for our social media and, like, sign up for VisionCast. We are on every platform at this point, so please leave your comment. Tell us, like, if there's any topic that you wanted to explore or you want to hear from us. We'll love to, like, bring the as compelling guests as like Rauf and Will, like, we had. So thank you again, and see you next time.
Thank you very much, Tasif.